Otherwise, we'd slide into the window. Then we'd have to get back out and do it again. And we did that for 8 weeks. We also, out at the fire station, training gown, they would bring an engine out and they would connect the hoses to the engine. And we were taught how to handle the different sizes of fire hose. Anything from what they call a booster hose, which is 1 inch diameter, 1.5 inch, had 100 pounds of nozzle pressure and flowed 30 gallons of water per minute, up to a 2.5 inch fire hose, which again had 100 pounds of water pressure at the nozzle, but it would flow 250 gallons per minute. So there was a lot of back pressure against the individual handling the hose. So the booster hose, one person could handle. The 2.5 inch hose, it took 3 to 4 men. And we were trained over the 8 week period how to handle those hoses, how to hook them up to the fire engine. And then the engine operator, he was in charge of giving us the correct pressures based on the size and length of hose. And then we were, once we graduated from training, those that were left were assigned to various stations throughout the city of Wichita at that time. And in my class anyway, there was, I think, 14 of us, and 13 of us made it. But it was because we were determined to do something good. And we also took an oath that we would protect God and country, basically, and property. And that was one thing too that motivated me. Was at that time there was a city attorney in Wichita. He considered firemen third-class citizens, and he was on record saying so. I didn't like that. I was just as good as the next person, in my opinion. And so I stayed on. And another thing that during my career, back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a strike in Wichita in the fire department. And all the privates walked off the job because they felt like they weren't getting paid due to this attorney for the city, weren't getting paid fairly. I had taken that oath and I took it seriously. I stayed on the job. And that meant I was on the fire at Station 19, 24 hours a day. I was there for 3 weeks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did break down at one point because of the stress. I went home. I talked with Jan, my wife. I went back. And I stayed there till the strike was over. But there was a lot of resentment within some of the guys, especially guys I worked with, that I was with a so-called scab. Union Fire Department in the state of Kansas cannot strike, but they did. But I had taken an oath, and I wanted to live by that oath. During our conversations about my history with the fire department, I just wanted to make sure that people understood that firemen don't go into the job because of the money. They're not trying to be heroes or family, a figure that they aren't in person. They're there because they see the worst of the times that the people are encountering due to a fire or a tragedy of some sort. And they do it because deep down, they want to be able to help people. And that's primarily the reason I stayed with the fire department as long as I did. Thank you. After a fire, all the fire hoses that are used, with the exception of what they call a booster hose, are drained and rolled up to squeeze all the water out of them. The 2.5 inch hose particularly is it's a rubber lining, but it's a cotton jacket. So when we would get back to the fire station, we had it with called a hose rack. And we would take the hose and hang it over that hose rack. And it was in a heated room. So the hoses were allowed to dry before they were put back on the fire equipment. Now the so-called booster hose, which is a 1 inch hose, it was rubber lined in and out. So the water, any residual water in it, it was drained, but anything that left would not freeze. When we made an alarm, the structure was such that the lieutenant or captain on the particular apparatus, they would take the nozzle. And then you as a fireman on the back end, it was your job at that point to go ahead and connect all the hoses up and set any ladders that might be needed, and then assist the officer by taking over the hose. That way he could step back and take command and tell you what he was seeing and what you needed to do.
But wasn't there also somebody stayed with the engine at all times?
Yeah, the driver always stayed with the engine because he had to operate the controls to give us water pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I say, it's a structured thing. So each person knew before they even got the call what their performance was going to be needed once they got there. The only situation that might be different is on a medical call. You never knew until you got to the scene what you were going to encounter. A structure fire, you already pretty much had an idea based on what the dispatcher was telling you en route, that it's in the kitchen, basement, bathroom, garage. So you already had an idea of what you were looking for. But a car accident, shooting, a stabbing, you don't know what you're going to encounter. The only thing that we had at that time was our tower out there at the training facility. And they had a lower elevation where they could block off the windows and doors, and they would fill it with smoke from straw bales. And then we would have to go into that. And that was the only encounter as to a fire situation other than an actual fire that we had. Black usually means that there's some sort of petroleum product involved. Tires, for example, are a good example. There are a lot of oils and stuff in those tires that creates that heavy black smoke. Now, structure fire, it's wood primarily. If it's black, it's because probably the roofing shingles are on fire. But it's a different color and texture of smoke on most fires unless there's petroleum product involved. Now, field fire, they're going to be kind of a gray-white smoke. It's light and wispy for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
I was 17 when I graduated high school as well. And I wasn't really mature enough to do a lot of that's why I didn't know what I wanted to do, for one thing. I thought I did, but I didn't have the educational background for it.
When he graduated from East High, he told his mom on graduation day, "I'm not going." And she said, "Yes, you are." And he said, "No." He said, "They'll send me my diploma or give it to me. I'm not going." And she said, "You are going to your graduation. Get your cap and gown on. You're going." He went.
Grudgingly. But you're eligible for promotion. Without that, education, you weren't going to be eligible. So I went back to college, and
Even night classes.
I took two classes a semester, night classes, in addition to everything else I was doing. And
Which was a lot.
I had to have 60 hours to get promoted to lieutenant. I got those. And then after that, I needed, I forget, like 90 or whatever to be eligible for captain. I got those. And all the time I was in school, I carried an A average. In high school, middle school, I was lucky if I got a C minus. These primarily.